evening, everyone, and welcome to our Village Board of Trustees meeting this evening. It is March 18th, 2013, and I'm very pleased to introduce members of PAC 130 representing Westgate School, and I'm pleased to introduce Tommy Bleasdale, Ethan Bleasdale, DJ Andrews, Logan DeWolf, Noah Heiber, Griffin Hall, and Jack Buckholz. They're accompanied by their leaders, Tom Bleasdale, Elizabeth DeWolf, and Harlan Heber. Gentlemen, you may begin.
Color guard, prepare to post the colors.
The audience, please rise.
Color guard, advanced. Color guard, halt. Cub Scout, salute. Color guard, post the colors. Would the audience please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard dismissed. Audience may now be seated. Thank you.
What do you think of that? Wasn't that pretty fantastic? I'm sure many of you know how strong Scouts and many troops within our community are an extremely strong program, and lots of Eagles. They make it all that way, and it wouldn't be without some great leaders. So thank you to the leaders and all those parents who support their young men. And Girl Scouts is pretty strong as well. So keep scouting, and thank you, gentlemen, very much. I now ask the clerk if she'd please call the roll.
Trustee Breyer.
Here.
Trustee Farwell.
Here.
Trustee Glasgow.
Here.
Trustee Hayes.
Here.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Here.
Trustee Scaletta.
Here.
Trustee Sidor.
Here.
Trustee Blackwood. Here. President Mulder.
Here. We now go to our agenda. We have had roll call. We have approval of minutes. We have two sets. First, the approval of minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of March 4th, 2013. Any comments, corrections, deletions, or additions?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Glasgow, seconded by Trustee Sidor. I will be abstaining or passing from these. I was not at the meeting.
Pass.
And a pass from Trustee Scaletta as well as Trustee Farwell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next, we have the minutes of a committee of the whole meeting held March 6th. I would again ask if there are any comments, corrections, deletions, or additions.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion by Trustee Blackwood, seconded by Trustee Rosenberg. Any other comments?
Pass.
Pass for Trustee Scaletta and Trustee
pass.
Farwell.
Right.
I was there, so I can vote this time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We now move down to item 5, and I would take this opportunity, I know we have a lot of people in the audience, but if anyone that wishes to speak under citizens to be heard, I see I have a few cards. They're at the back table, and if you could complete them and get them up to the clerk, we would appreciate it, and we can call you at that time. We are on item 5 at this moment, and if you are speaking on a specific agenda item, please indicate it. There are copies also of our agenda at the back of the room, so if you could look at that. And we do ask anyone speaking and addressing to the village board to contain their comments to within 3 minutes or less. Accounts payable, item 5. Any comments, corrections, or questions not answered? If none, Trustee Hayes.
Under the accounts payable, I would move approval of the warrant register dated March 15th, 2013 in the amount of $920,244.65.
Second.
A motion by Trustee Hayes, seconded by Trustee Farwell. anyone in the audience that has any questions, because I think this is posted online. Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. We now move to item 6, recognitions and presentations. It's the practice of this board to recognize any of our students that serve our Arlington Heights residents that place 3rd or higher at the state level. We try to recognize them, and tonight we have such an honor, and that is Buffalo Grove High School varsity cheerleading team, who did it all, the very best, first place in the state finals. It doesn't get any better than that. It's pretty awesome, and I would just offer my personal congratulations, but I'm sure everyone on the board, this co-ed cheerleading team was placed first in the tournament that was held in February. We really appreciate the opportunity to recognize these young, talented people, and as a team, I'm sure there are some of you that hope the others will be holding you tight so that you're in the right spot as you do your stunts. You started a competitive cheerleading, I believe, as a high school some years ago, 8 years, I think is what I had seen somewhere. And it seems that I've seen your name in the paper quite a few times. Very impressive climb to the very, very top of the state, and it says a lot about what you strive to do, your dedication, your practice, your commitment, and to your coaches for their guidance and obviously their inspiration. Besides celebrating your victory, we hope that in that process of being part of a team, you've learned a lot about yourself and about how much can be accomplished when you work together and you can trust that someone else will do their part. I would ask if the audience could recognize these folks as I ask Coach Jeff Siegel to join me up front by this small trophy. Let's congratulate Coach Jeff Siegel with his great accomplishment. Okay, did you trip?
I wish that's what it was.
Okay. I'm going to give this to you, and I stand around here so they can all see you. He's getting a little red here, so I certainly want to start off by recognizing the coaches, and on behalf of the Village Board of Trustees and all the residents in the village, we really, for your outstanding achievement as head coach of the Buffalo Grove High School varsity cheerleading squad. The impressive achievement represents the unending dedication to the 2012-2013 Buffalo Grove High School varsity cheerleading squad. Your efforts are an example for everyone that what can be accomplished with practice, endurance, and commitment. Arlington Heights is proud of such a talented team. Very, very proud. And as a former athletic type person, I know how much work went into this, so congratulations. And on behalf of everybody, let's thank the coach again. Matt Meyer, are you here? Come up here, Matt. Erin O'Donnell, is he here tonight? Or she? Okay. You can clap, that's okay, yeah. He'll watch the video, see, okay. Steve Nolte? Okay. Becky? Sarah? Yay! I have a feeling you were one before. Yes. Yeah. Okay. And I think Stephanie is not here this evening. And just so that I don't mess anybody's name up, I'm going to let your coach introduce each of the cheerleaders, and then I'll be able to shake your hands and congratulate you.
Lord,
There we go.
Lauren Castleman.
Are you the captain or something? No. You got something special like this.
Megan Cohn. That's really loud.
They all have this special little pin on there. Oh, what's that little pin say?
That it says State Finals 2013. Jenny Suzuki.
Congratulations. Wait a minute. How do you say it?
Sazeski.
Sazeski. Oh, okay.
I haven't gotten it right once, but one of these days. Christina Druffen.
Congratulations, Christina. Read his name anyway.
Brian Fuertes. And Joseph Gonzalez. Brandon Gooden.
You can smile. It's okay.
Lauren Hinsman. Caleb Jones.
You know, nobody's perfect, and I forgot. We have, someone who lives, and all these kids went to Buffalo Grove High School. Trustee Tom Hayes, come down here. You got to help me and shake these hands. I mean, these are some classmates of your sons. Congratulations. What was your first name again?
Caleb.
Caleb, do you catch him? Yeah. Congratulations.
My best. I tried to do the brown one.
Dan Kabikoff.
Another strong guy. Okay. Congratulations, Dan. Thank you.
Alexis Marsh.
Everybody's so stunning tonight. Congratulations, Alexis.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Fabiola Mendoza. Monica Mish.
Monica, congratulations.
Thank you.
Rachel Nearing.
Rachel, congratulations.
Congratulations, Bill Bison.
Abby Norman.
Congratulations.
Charles Nowak.
Another strong guy. Congratulations.
Rachel Picola.
Your chances get better if your name's Rachel. Right. Congratulations.
Bryn Rapp.
Bryn, congratulations.
Thank you.
What a beautiful girl.
Dara Reinhardt. Sarah Bashardi.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Kaylee Tasca.
Congratulations, Kaylee.
Thank you.
Samantha Theodore.
Do you get to be on top?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Congratulations, Samantha.
Amy Walter.
Jacqueline Zergabal.
Jacqueline, congratulations.
Congrats.
Justine Zergabal.
Congratulations.
And Antonio Zamani.
Congratulations, Antonio.
Nice job.
Any comments about the seasons or anything unique?
Well, first of all, we just want to say thank you to everyone here in Arlington Heights and to President Mulder for recognizing us. And I think, as I was telling her, I think 3/4 of this squad is from Arlington Heights, if not more. So I think it's something in the water here in Arlington Heights. That's a good thing. Last year, St. Viator, this year, Buffalo Grove. Hopefully we can repeat it next year and bring it back. This team did an absolutely great job. Being the fact that it's only been co-ed, we came back 3 years ago and started the program back up from being all girl again. And they really, really did a great job. We started the year off, we finished first place at the Belvedere North Invitational, was the co-ed challenge, first out of 19 teams. And then we went to Rolling Meadows and won the Rolling Meadows Roundup the following day. Went up to Belvedere High School and we took second. And we won our, is that third in a row? Yeah, third in a row. We won the Mid-Suburban League Championship for the third year in a row, which was fantastic. We took second place at Grays Lake North. We won the IHSA State Sectional at Rolling Meadows High School. And then the first day of state, there was 25 teams in advance. The team took first out of 25 teams. And then on day 2, they took and had the highest score of any of the schools in all the divisions there at state. So out of 100 teams at the state championships, Buffalo Grove had the highest score of everyone. And then on day 2, we finished up in first place. But one of the things that's great about this team, it's not only just what they do on the floor, it's also what they do academically. We had 3 seniors that they would stand forward. They were academic all-conference this year, too. They also helped raise funds for Immerman Angels, which is a cancer charity that takes cancer survivors and matches them up with people that also have cancer. So it was good, and they also helped awareness for some other great causes. So we're very, very proud of these kids, and they do a great job in and out of the classroom.
Coach, I think those words have just sort of promulgated the thought in my mind as people sometimes go, oh, can you see how those young kids dress? I mean, what's the future going to hold for us? You look at these young men and women, the accomplishments scholastically, athletically, and I can tell you, you can't be athletic if you're not eating and taking good care of yourself because you can't perform. You have to have a positive attitude and one of success, otherwise you can't smile while you're hoping somebody catches you. There's so many traits that being part of a team, and when you're 30 or 40, you're going to reflect back to this year, this team, your friends, people that you really connected with. You have learned so much about future that some people wait till 40 to learn. You've already learned it, you may not recognize it. But these are things and qualities you'll carry throughout your life. And you are what we have a lot of hope for the future, especially if you live in Arlington Heights. Wow. You're probably going to get good jobs and everything and come back and get married and watch your kids come up here and be cheerleaders. We couldn't be prouder of you, and you deserve every bit of recognition for who you are as an individual. And most importantly tonight, because you know how to be part of a team, not just an individual. Congratulations. Anyone eager to say anything? Anybody want to say anything?
Okay, I definitely have to start off saying that this year was definitely an unbelievable year. Like, I've never been so close with the team. Like, we as a team, out of, well, my 4 years of high school, this has definitely been the closest. And because we were so close, we worked so well together and achieved everything we ever wanted. So I'd have to say this is definitely the best year ever.
We'd also like to say thank you again for having us and recognizing our accomplishment. It means a lot. But a lot of this wouldn't have happened without our great coaching staff. Like, we've had so many obstacles. We had a ton of obstacles this season, but that didn't stop us because they taught us that no matter what, you push through for what you want. And so we fought through everything to get what we wanted, and we ended up in the top where we wanted to be. So thank you for everything.
Let's hear it. Come on. Yay. Thank you. Our champions, Arlington Heights. All you have to do is live here and you can be one. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Coach.
Go Bison.
I did my best. I don't know if I didn't know if the colors just right, but I tried.
I suppose you want to take that with you. Take these.
Good luck next year.
Oh, absolutely.
Congratulations.
I've been around for a long time.
This must be the coaches that are
Congratulations. You're not old.
Hold on. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I like your last name. Mine's got the A instead of the E.
You made a move. She's going to speak. She's going to speak at some point. The first speaker. Congratulations, Coach.
That's a good idea.
Somebody. Weren't they great?
They were.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We're going to see some more next meeting, too. Someone's smiling down there. We'll get back to the agenda if I can find it. No. There we go. That concludes our recognitions, and again, my heartfelt congratulations to a great effort, some terrific young people. Mr. Dixon, we have no public hearings.
That's correct.
Citizens to be heard. Again, 3 minutes or less, and we have a little clock to help you, if you can keep that in your eyes. Mark Fuller is the first to be asked to make his comment.
Can we have Adam go first, please?
Adam's number 3. Mark's number 1. I'm just reading them like they gave them to me. Okay. Adam, I guess you're up first.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Adam Eichhorn, and I live at 1303 North Douglas Avenue in Arlington Heights. I'm here tonight because I love Arlington Heights, I love my neighborhood, and I believe our town is at its best when we live up to our motto, the city of good neighbors. I'm here at this board meeting because I know I can count on the honor, the integrity, and the character of our elected officials to help when a neighborhood is threatened with destruction. Well, not threatened, but promised. The Orchard Evangelical Free Church recently sent eviction notices to their tenants, forcing families with young children to leave their homes by June 1st, even before the school year ends. Church members told us that they intend to demolish 8 homes, uproot trees, and displace families to replace our neighborhood with a bigger parking lot. They want to increase off-street parking by 74%, adding over 220 new parking spots. It is important to note why we are here in front of the board before any formal applications have been filed and before any official public hearings have been scheduled. It's because we have been told that the church does not need approvals or permission to destroy our neighborhood, that the church does not intend to ever file applications or to request variances. They intend to bulldoze 8 homes less than 3 months from now. We were told this is for the betterment of the neighborhood. We were told that the neighborhood would be happier by removing these homes and families in favor of getting cars off the streets into a bigger parking lot. This is not true. On-street parking stopped being a burden for neighbors several years ago after the village helped us with restricted parking. We would much rather have friends and neighbors than be surrounded by more concrete. Concrete used by hundreds and thousands of out-of-towners only for a couple hours on Sundays. Please let the residents of Arlington Heights know that you support neighborhoods of homes and families, and that you will not support the needless destruction of homes for unnecessary concrete parking lots. Please do not let these homes be demolished. Thank you.
Did a great job, Adam. Thank you. Mark, if you'd come up, and since we do have a few, just to let you know who will be number 3 will be Michelle Strahan. Okay.
My name is Mark Fuller. I live at the 1400 block North Douglas Avenue in beautiful Arlington Heights. Born and raised here. Been here about over 40 years of my entire life. And I'm only 29. How does that happen?
Okay.
I would like to thank the board. Thank you for helping us in the Hickory Meadows community 6 years ago to maintain the character of our neighborhood. Thank you for addressing our concerns. If our neighbors' and friends' houses had been torn down back in 2007 and a parking garage put in, our neighborhood would not be the same. I would have given serious considerations to moving and selling our house. I thank the board for helping us, for we have come to know so many wonderful friends, fellow school parents, and children, and neighbors over the past 6 years. Last time I was up in front of you, I had a 1-year-old at home, and my wife was pregnant with twins. Our oldest is now in the 2nd grade at Olive Mary Stitt, and our twins are in kindergarten there. It's been awesome to have a great neighborhood within which to raise them. I'd like to continue to devote my time to my family and community, free from the threat and distress of, again, having our neighborhood changed forever for the worse. I'd rather not have to start again coming to every board meeting, but we in the community will, again, come to every board meeting if we have to. We'd just rather not. Yet, here we are again, and there's several of us here in the audience. Here we are again asking for your help. This is our neighborhood today. 13 houses and a cul-de-sac. And this is the Orchard Church's plans, is to start taking these houses and demolishing them for increased parking lot. If anyone's ever heard the song, They Paved Paradise and put up a parking lot, there's going to be more than 200 parking spaces are going to be added, and numerous old growth trees are going to be cut down. As Adam mentioned, the Orchard has already issued eviction notices dislodging families with children by May 31st, before school even ends. We would like the assurance of the board that you would not be in favor of the destruction of our neighborhood, and would reject any plans and requests for permits that are submitted to the village by the Orchard to tear houses down and forever change the character of our neighborhood. We need to hear those assurances now, so that hopefully the Orchard immediately changes course before 8 families are kicked out of their homes, forced to fend for themselves, and before children are driven from their schools. Please help us before the Orchard abandons 8 homes in our neighborhood next to a grade school. Please help us before those 8 homes are torn down for safety's sake and a parking lot paved over. Please help us maintain the character of our neighborhood before it is destroyed and forever changed for the worse. Thank you again.
Thank you. Michelle Strand.
Hello, my name is Michelle Strand, and I live at 510 East Olive Street. I'd like to thank you in advance for letting me come and talk today about my concerns. I feel I'm in a unique situation to speak about this issue because I live on Olive Street. I'm near Douglas and Hadow. My husband and I moved from a suburb farther west just 3 years ago. It took months for searching for a home in a city with excellent schools and plenty of families around us. We admittedly looked further east at cities closer to my husband's workplace, but we decided on Arlington Heights and the Hickory Meadows area for some distinct reasons. Most of the homes we were looking at closer to the city had something undesirable in common: commercial-style parking lots, and businesses near residential homes. We really could not swallow having our children in areas where zoning was spotty and the look and feel of the area was commercial. We decided on our home in Arlington Heights because of the neighborhood residential feel. Across from our home is a beautiful park with swings and playground equipment, trees, and green grass. People we spoke to before we moved told us we'd love the neighborhood and school because there's such a closeness among families and a feeling of true good neighborliness. My children can walk to school, which is located next to the park. Not only that, but we have neighbors up and down Olive, most of Douglas, and last but not least, many neighbors on the Haddow cul-de-sac. Not only are these neighbors, but residents of our community, fellow students at Olive Mary Stitt School, as well as St. Peter's. Each family who lives on the street have children who play outside near the trees and grass, riding their bikes, and promoting the neighborhood feel that is so desirable among families. Many people I know have saved their pennies in hopes to be able to move to a great city like Arlington Heights because it is such a desirable, family-oriented, residential suburb. I can assure you that every person who has heard of the evictions on Haddow with the intention to have a parking lot built by fall is very disappointed, concerned for the look and feel of the area, and worried about the character drastically changing with a Walmart-sized parking lot taking over the majority of our land so close to the residential homes. We ask you today to consider the voices of our residents and ask that you would not be in favor of any destruction in our neighborhood. This is an image, and I gave you a picture of what would be destroyed, and it does not even include the home on Douglas and another home on Olive. It's not just the homes, but the loss of character of our neighborhood. Lastly, the premature eviction of all the residents who live in these 8 homes is perceived by neighbors as a confusing and drastic move. Having half a block of vacant homes is not productive, not for selling or buying homes, and certainly is not safe for our community. This move is perceived as placing facts on the ground before there are even applications. Our hope is that the City of Good Neighbors motto of Arlington Heights that we bought into when we purchased our home will stay preserved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for the photograph of the street with the little snow. So, I don't know if there any of the other submitters of a blue slip were for the same subject. No. Okay, so we're going to change. John Chiffon or Siphon. Okay. If you'd please come up, and then following John, Keith Mullins.
Good evening. My name is John Siphone, C-I-F-F-O-N-E. I reside at 814 East Wing Street in the Arlington Crossings community. The reason why I'm here tonight is just to, if you might recall, we had a lengthy discussion at the meeting on December 17th, I believe it was, and subsequently on January 7th meeting regarding the Hickory-Kensington area map. Just to remind you, as of today, we did look at the map that is posted on the village site, and there is, to date, nothing to restrict the old Arlington Market property down to a 4-level building. And I think you might recall that that was a compromise that evening. Do you all recall that?
Yes.
But the map currently does not show any kind of restriction to 4 levels. And I'd just like to bring that up to the board, and perhaps you might want to filter that on down to Mr. Enright, so the map could have maybe an asterisk on that section, so any future developer might see that it is a restricted height. So.
Mr. Dixon, how would we respond to that? I mean, it's a thought. It's not even a plan at this point. It's a project that we've designated that we would be addressing in the future.
Mayor, thank you. I'll give Mr. Perkins the opportunity if there's an answer this evening. If not, we'll look into it. Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. The board's motion for the redevelopment plan was to change the height on that property. It should have been done. I will check tomorrow and find out what happened. But the final plan does reflect that change in height.
Great.
You've done your good job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Done my assignment for tonight. Thank you very much.
You can go back and say, mission accomplished.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Keith Mullins?
By the way, may I interject? Thank you, Mayor, for the years of service that you've given us.
Thank you. It's been my honor. Thank you very much. Hi, Keith.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Keith Mullins. I live at 636 South Cleveland Avenue. And I just want to, the last couple of weeks I've taken sort of field trips to Mount Prospect and Buffalo Grove, and I've listened to candidate forums in that town just to kind of see what's going on. I do that every so often. And one of their big concerns up there happens to be empty stores and excess business capacity in these towns too. So we're not alone in this. We're not alone here. They have the same concerns that we do, and they overbuilt during the 90s just like we did, only we did it a little more expensively than they did. But, and guess kind of what their solution to this problem is, and their solution is TIFs, tax breaks to the businesses, expediting applications through Village Hall and this sort of thing. And it's the same thing that we talk about all the time. And I think we are, as a region, we're kind of all chasing our tails after business, and what really we need to do is redirect these tax breaks to the homeowner and give them money to spend to go down, and you redirect this tax break to the homeowner to go down and spend in the businesses in town. The homeowner in this town is strapped, and I think that report that came out recently, the CMAP report, was really very good, and I hope everybody read this. I mean, it was really very good. It showed that the cost-burdened household in Arlington Heights has risen from 21% to 32% over the last 10 years. And that's a pretty good jump. I mean, the cost-burdened, and we know what that means. Anything that's 30% or more of their income has to be go towards housing. That's just too much of a stress. As a matter of fact, if we keep that trend going, we're going to be roughly where Rolling Meadows is today as far as their cost burden number. And so we need to subsidize the homeowner. We need to look at them as a way of coming up with demand to support the businesses, not just give them tax breaks. I mean, if we look at the metropolis here as an example, that $317,000 that's coming from the A&E fund, it's a little bit misleading to say that that isn't costing us anything. I would argue that if you have $317,000 in that fund, you could transfer it over to the property tax revenue, which would reduce my property taxes. The multiplier on that's pretty high. They said that it's about $5 million on an investment of about $150,000 a year. That's a pretty good sized multiplier. But that's saying that if we put $150,000 into the theater, we get back $5 million in revenue. Okay, that's high. That's like about 33 to 1. It's a big number. Generally, I think economists look at about 4 to 1. So if we could give a $150,000 tax break to the homeowners and not the businesses, they don't need the tax breaks. The homeowners contribute 68% of our property tax revenue to this town. If we can give them the tax break with that multiplier to spend that money in town, that in turn organically grows businesses where we don't have to subsidize them year in and year out.
I need your culminating
Okay, and
sentence.
so this is where I think we need to go, is towards subsidizing the demand side of this thing, not just building it all the time. So my question to the board is it possible that you could change this mindset that I think will be here now and probably after the election, because I think we'll have the same crew here, change the mindset of just subsidizing businesses only and look at the stress level of the financial stress level of the homeowner.
Thank you, Mr. Moynes. Your time is up. I would just leave you with this response. The restaurants that we have benefit greatly from the fact that Metropolis is there and open. The loss of money to these restaurants and perhaps the closure, which you've made an issue about empty storefronts, we might lose a lot of our restaurants. 70% of the people buying tickets to this theater, as reported in one of our reports, are people who are not residents. So they're coming to our community and frequently eat before or after the theater. that number is hard. The Arts and Entertainment Fund has nothing to do with property tax. It's when you spend, okay, you don't get a chance to rebut me.
I don't get a chance?
It's not a conversation, no.
It's not a conversation?
No.
Well, I don't understand how
Major
this cannot be a
citizen.
conversation.
I was answering, oh, no, okay, then we're finished. Thank you.
Okay, but I mean, I'm not saying that it's
No,
connected
we're
to the A&A. It's not connected to that. It's transferring over, if you've got that, it's not free to the village to support the metropolis. And that's what we continue to hear all the time, and that's not true.
No, we created the Arts and Entertainment Fund. In addition to Metropolis, it also underwrites Main Event, Hearts of Gold. It helps all of our events, all the concerts in Harmony Park, Taste, Main Event, the Promenade of Art, all of these things, all those dollars for fun activities that businesses enjoy because people actually come down and find out that we have a vibrant downtown. And it's a difference of opinion, Keith. It's a difference of opinion. So you have your opinion, and we have found, and our restaurants are very happy. If someone spends $100 in a restaurant, they are giving to this fund 25 cents. And most people have no problem with that.
That's very fine. But
Thank you.
you could transfer that, I mean,
Keith,
back
we're gonna
over
move
to the
on with
property.
our
You can
agenda.
reduce the property tax, is what I'm saying. I mean, it's a sleight of hand to say that it's free.
Okay, Mr. Dixon, I don't know if we can, you're done. I'm sorry.
Mayor, I'd like to just have a couple comments on the first three speakers, because I think there is some information that's relevant that I'd like to remind the public and the board about. If you'd bear with me just a moment.
Yes.
And to do so, I need to make a disclosure, and it's nothing dramatic, but just I'll do it this time, and hopefully when we talk about the EV Free Church, I won't have to do it anymore. My wife and I live approximately 3 blocks north of the Orchard Church. Our home is north of Thomas, whereas the church is south of Thomas. Having lived in our current home for 20 years, I'm unaware of any situation where the church has impacted our immediate neighborhood from a parking or traffic standpoint. I'm disclosing this and do not feel it's a conflict for me to participate in discussions regarding the church, and unless advised to the contrary, I intend to participate in such discussions regarding this matter. Now, having said that, the reason I really wanted to speak was I believe we have something in our code that has to do with demolition of property that's relevant in this case, and I would ask Mr. Perkins to explain that.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. A few years ago when we were dealing with the tear-down issue in the mid-2000s, there were several changes that were made to the code. One of those was to require that prior to any structure being demolished in a residential zoning district, that the Design Commission evaluate the proposed redevelopment plan, how that area would redevelop, and there are some criteria that they look at, including making sure that the redevelopment plan is in character with the keeping of the character of the neighborhood, and that the proposed redevelopment plan would not adversely affect the neighborhood. In addition, the last time we saw a plan from the church on this issue was in 2011, and that plan required other actions from the board, including the vacation of the section of Haddow Street, because the village owns that. And the plan at the time, it could be different now, I don't know, entailed parking over the public right-of-way, so the board would have to approve the vacation of that street. And in addition, they would have to seek a plat of re-subdivision to consolidate and re-subdivide those 8 lots into their property. There may be other variations that they need, depending upon the plan, but as I'd mentioned, we've not received any materials from them since November of 2011, but those provisions in the code would come into play if they were to submit for a permit.
Thank you. Trustee Rosenberg.
Charles, does that mean that, based upon the comments that we've heard tonight, that you would seek out the church then to try to contact them based upon information we received, as far as to put them on notice as far as what their requirements are, to make sure that they're aware of that?
Trustee Rosenberg, I think based on what we've heard this evening, sending some communication to the church advising them of this provision in the ordinance would be the right thing to do, so there's no misunderstanding going down the road. I would also like to make one clarification. There is an exemption in that section that I referred to, where the building director is allowed to issue a demolition permit if the structure is unsafe and a safety hazard to the citizens, so that's an exception.
Right, but I would assume since people are living there now, I would hope that that would not be the case, so.
You would imagine that's not an issue in this particular case at this time. Obviously, if they're empty for a long time, it could become an issue.
Right.
But we will, I think that's a great idea. We will send a communication to the church outlining this code provision.
Because obviously, as them being the landlords of the property, they have the right to terminate their leases, according to their lease agreements and do whatever they want with that property, vacant or not vacant.
That's correct. And they have the right to petition to the village for various zoning approvals at some point in the future, and that will be evaluated and go through our normal hearing processes.
Correct. So just to let the residents know that nothing can be done right now until the church would have to come before us for permission to do anything as far as demolition or building or anything like that. So.
Just gotta fill out a card, right?
If you could come up and fill a card out, please.
It's in the back. The cards are in the
Mr.
back.
Siegel, is it permissible to have a resident come forward? We've had citizens to be heard. It's sort of at the tail end of it.
Let her do
it. Just come on up. Come on up. Make sure that we get into the mic so that we get it on the recorder.
I live at 707 East Marion Street.
Can you your name?
My name's Eileen Cummings. I've lived there for 12 years. And my question is, I know with the evangelical churches, a lot of times they follow the pastor. So I know with the so-called, they call them mega churches, they'll build a big building, and then if the pastor moves, then they'll go and follow where the pastor goes. So do the villages ever take into account when a big building or parking lot gets built, just like with, I know you can't really do that with businesses, you let businesses kind of build what they want, but with a church, would you, and especially in a little village like Arlington Heights, would you take that into consideration that they might leave if the pastor leaves, because that's typically how it works. They follow the pastor, so they could build a big parking lot and then leave. And then as far as safety issues are concerned also, I live right by the retention pond, and there was like a homeless person on several occasions that would sleep in the area there, the retention pond area, and I would call, I have 3 small children, and they walked to school, they walked to Olive School, and this would happen a lot, and I would call the police and say, well, there's a homeless person sleeping there, and he would say, well, there's nothing I can really do. They'd go and talk to him, and they'd say, well, there's nothing I can really do because this is public property, and this was our big concern when they were going to build this big structure, was that, our kids could be walking past there, because even when I went to the Metropolis once, I got accosted by some guy. He followed me in the parking lot, because that's what happens when you can be in structures like that. So what I'm saying is that my kids right now, they walk past a homeless guy sometimes on their way to school, just little Olive School, and that's all. So those are my concerns, really,
We did the right thing by calling the police.
Yeah, and they went and they told me, lady, I can't do anything about it because he's reading a book, so, and it's public property. So that's all.
I need you to finish filling out that form. Just go over there and give it to the clerk. Thank you. Well, that'll conclude our citizens to be heard, and we'll move on to our regular agenda. We're now on page 2.
Mayor?
Excuse me. There's another citizen to be heard, I believe. You're part of the agenda?
Yeah.
My apologies, Mayor. She's part of the agenda.
My assistant over here had organized it. Trustee Scaletta, you wanted to make a comment?
I just wanted to let you know that Becky was trying to get your attention.
Okay. We now move to our consent agenda, which are all the items, if you're following along, that are found on page 3 and 4. I would ask if there are any trustees who wish to vote no or pass on any item on the consent agenda. Are there any trustees who wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Are there any citizens in the audience that might still be here that have an issue on page 3 or 4 that they would like to have removed? Seeing none, I would ask if there's a motion for approval of the item.
Second.
Where was the motion? Trustee Glasgow, seconded by Trustee Farwell. Roll call, please.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. Motion carries. We now move to page 5, new business, and we have the report of a Building Code and Review Board meeting which was held March 1st. Mr. Dixon?
Yes, Mayor, this pertains to fire sprinklers, and the board on that evening considered an amendment to the International Building Code and the International Fire Code. And perhaps Trustee Scaletta would want to comment on this, as he is the board's liaison to the Building Code Review Board. Suffice to say that the Building Code Review Board has recommended a modification to a code section regarding this subject.
Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish I was in attendance that evening, as this is partially what I was begging the Building Code Review Board for when we went through the update of the International Building Code, which basically required 0% square footage, which would trigger the installation of sprinkler systems in any commercial building in the village. And through lengthy discussion during that time, I urged them to reconsider. I thought that 0% was just not prudent throughout the village of Arlington Heights, and we've seen over the past couple of months that we've had some issues where, because of that requirement, we've had the opportunity or we lost the opportunity to engage some tenants specifically in the downtown. I think that they reviewed it, that they understood it, and sometimes you need an example. And although I was kicking and screaming all the way through, they ultimately found, they really, you have to remember that the Building Code Review Board is there to make sure that we have the safest building codes in the village of Arlington Heights. And they're really trying to do the best that they can and try and make everything safe. But sometimes the practicality doesn't really necessarily meet up with the code ordinances. So I will say that the fire chief and the deputy fire chief were in attendance. Both of them concurred that they would be okay with the change in the code, and I'm comfortable with it, and I'm thrilled with it, and I would move approval.
Second.
A motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Hayes. Any other comments from trustees? Trustee Breyer.
Is everybody in the fire department in concurrence with this? There's no feelings on the part of other than the chief that this would be a problem with safety?
Trustee Breyer, obviously in matters like this, the chief does speak for the department. I'm not aware of any dissent. However, there are 100-some-odd members of the department. I suppose it's conceivable that someone might not support this, but this has had a full airing, and it's recommended for board approval.
And it doesn't look like anybody is here from the fire department to say that this is bad news.
We have a
Deputy Chief Lyons is here.
Do you want to? Have you had any conversation on this? I think your chief has made a.
For the record, Deputy Chief Lyons does sit on this Building Code Review Board.
No, yes, everyone concurs that this is safe. Like Trustee Scaletta says, we're just trying to be responsive to the needs of the village, and in addition to the safety of the village.
And this is based on the smaller sized building. So if someone, for example, has a business and it's very, very small, I mean, we just had an issue with the bathrooms, of unisex bathroom. Yeah.
That'll be
that's
next.
coming next, okay. I remember talking to the owner of the business. That's why I know on that one. And we are trying to be as business friendly as possible.
That's correct.
And it's cost prohibitive if it's a really tiny business and they're barely making it. Trustee Rosenberg?
Trustee Scaletta, wasn't it, unless I misread it, Wasn't it something in there that also said that it had to also meet certain criteria?
Absolutely. I was just
the building itself.
Absolutely. I was had my hand up, but the mayor obviously called in you because you had new information. But it's not strictly that it's 3,000 square feet. It's 3,000 square feet, and they also have to meet certain criteria with fire ratings and so on. And also, there's a residential component. So, the fire department makes sure that the village is very safe, and the fire chief and the deputy fire chief have a lot of experience in the village, and they want to do everything they can to make sure that we are safe when a fire does break out, and they've understood the situation that we're in, and as much as they would love 0%, I think that that they also understand the reality of what the village of Arlington Heights goes through to try and attract new businesses to the village, and this just seemed a little bit of a hardship.
And the building code and review is made up of people with backgrounds in the field, not only in fire, but in building and architects and things
Engineers.
like that. Engineering.
Absolutely.
And we even have a sprinkler guy.
We do. We have the best of the best on this committee.
It's an incredible, and these are all volunteers that are residents that serve on this, and so they look at everything, and it's certainly been well vetted. We have a motion by Trustee Scaletta and a second by Trustee Hayes. Any other comments? Is there anyone in the audience? Roll call for this.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. Motion carries. Second proposal, Trustee Scaletta?
The second proposal is something that we recently took up, and I think that that staff recommended that the Building Code Review Board take a look at it with regards to the amount of the restrooms that you need to have in a facility that provides food service. And they saw the deliberation and the vote of this village board, which allowed a small food establishment, I'll call it that. It's basically a smoothie shop for all intents and purposes. And at that point, I think that they realized that that even though the occupancy might allow for people to be able to sit down and enjoy their food and or beverage, that it's not necessary to have two restrooms, one for male, one for female, readily available to the public. I think this also indicates that that there is another one that may not be public but is provided for the employees. So I think that this really took into consideration that we do have some smaller spaces in town, and we should not impose any undue hardship amongst those businesses, and another opportunity for us to reach out to the small businesses who are not taking up several thousand square feet. And so I would move approval.
I would second with comment.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Hayes. Your comment?
Well, I'm totally in support of this. I think it's really reflective of the village's flexibility in terms of the application of its codes, and how we're willing to really do what we can to both retain and attract businesses in town, especially our small businesses, which are so valuable to our business community. So I think this is really reflective of our attitude towards business here in town. I think we're willing to do what we can to help business and make sure that it thrives here in town. So I'm very much in support of this effort.
Anyone else with a comment? I'm just familiar, this space, this particular petition that brought this forward is very small, and I remember hearing someone say they'd likely not be in this establishment for more than 15 to 20 minutes. So a unisex bathroom would suffice. So we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. Motion carries. We now move to page 6, report of our Plan Commission public hearing on January 23rd in regards to the 2013 amendment to the comprehensive plan. Mr. Dixon?
Yes, thank you. As the mayor indicated, the Plan Commission held a public hearing on January 23rd. This pertained to amending the comprehensive plan from at the property 108 to 112 East Central Road. The change that was contemplated was a designation from commercial to offices only. The evening of that hearing, the Plan Commission recommended to the Village Board to maintain the current commercial designation on the comprehensive plan for the property 108 to 112 East Central Road. You might recall that there was some interest in exploring this in conjunction with the hearing and the board approval of the Japan Auto facility that is at the northwest corner of Central and Arlington Heights Road.
We're just trying to get some monitors to work. Okay. I missed your last sentence. I missed your last sentence. I was...
Oh. What I indicated, Mayor, was that at the hearing, after deliberations, the Plan Commission recommended to the Village Board that it maintain, that is, not change, the existing commercial designation on the comprehensive plan for 108 to 112 East Central.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address this? If you'd please come forward, give your name and address. Are we Eva?
Yes.
Okay. You give your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Eva Skordillis, Skordillis. I live at 4435 Stonehaven Drive in Long Grove, and I'm speaking on behalf of my father, who lives for John Mantis, and he lives at 939 South Evergreen in Arlington Heights.
Go ahead.
Okay, and my father's house is the house west of this property, and he owns the property that is boxed in the red, and also the property on the corner of Arlington Heights and Central that you guys have allowed Japan Auto Services to rent. On the property that we're here to speak about today, the 110 East Central, my father purchased the property in 1977, and the property was clearly zoned B1. He purchased it with the expectations of building a commercial, smaller retail produce. He was a wholesale produce, so he kind of wanted to combine the businesses and try the retail aspect. In 1991, he was given a building permit. Construction began about 5 days later. The village revoked the building permit. We did take the village to court, and in 1983 we got the permit back and we did build the building. It was a produce and it has docks in the back of the building. In 1985 my father did close the business, and in 1988 we rented the property, and then it was zoned OT, I believe OT transitional, Bill? Was that?
Office transitional.
Yes, I'm sorry, thank you. Yes. And then we came to the village and you guys allowed Canopy Salon and a flower shop to open in 1988. Unfortunately, when they built the concrete barriers, both of those businesses, 6 or 7 months shortly thereafter, failed, and my father's building has been vacant for the most part ever since. He does have about 1,300 square feet. That is the Staka computers. And he also had another Rose Depot was in there for about a year and a half, and to no avail. They weren't very successful in their business. The property has been sitting mostly vacant since 2002. My dad has people that have approached him to rent here. He has not been approached by any office type of business. He has been approached so far by daycare centers, which we almost worked, but it was too expensive for my dad to retrofit the building, so we couldn't make that deal work. Martial arts studio, specialty furniture shops, learning centers, trophy stores, et cetera. So again, the property, we are requesting, if you guys can please keep it commercial. We might eventually petition the board to see if we can transition it back to B1, so that if any of these prospective tenants come to my dad, we have the ability to be able to rent it. We have told the tenants that have come that they need to rezone with the board, and we never hear back from people that come. I think that's all. There was some, we did have a little, my brother parks the trucks there, and we did have a wholesale business permit that we have worked that deal off with the village. They had wanted him to stop storing produce, and we've worked with the village, and we've come to an agreement with that.
So you want us to approve what the Plan Commission recommends?
Yes, we'd like for you guys to approve it and to leave it commercial, so that we have a better opportunity. The property has been vacant since 2002. So if you guys can keep it commercial so that we have an opportunity to try to rent. It's about 2,800 square feet, Dad? 2,600 square feet.
I know that there's a number of places when roads are reconstructed and improved from a road standpoint and public safety, it impacts adjacent neighbors, some positively and some negatively.
Right.
And the businesses on this corner, because it's both on the east and the west side of Arlington Heights Road, the medians extend much further than they previously did, which limits access.
Yeah, and I believe the median goes all the way to Dundee, or not Dundee, I'm sorry, to Dunton Road, so it significantly prohibits
Those
access.
streets are cul-de-sac, so, but that's not as big of an issue, but commercial, that's tough.
Well, and the other thing is too, if you look at the building, I mean, it really does not look for offices. The back of the building has got, it's got a garage door, and it's a double, it's zoned, I mean, it's for parking trucks, so if we could find some type of retail business that does some light deliveries, something like that, that would make the building a little more permissible. I mean, to have OT transitional for docks and a freight elevator just doesn't make much sense, and the whole basement is storage, half of it's refrigeration, the other half is storage. Again, who's going to put an office down there? So by converting it to an office, it basically, half of the building is, more than half of the building, because it would be the docks in the back would be deemed worthless, and the whole downstairs.
The Japan Auto is also commercial?
Yeah.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes, Mayor. Japan Auto is zoned B2. This exhibit on the left is the section from the zoning map. So the Japan Auto, actually all three corners, this is where the little arrow is, Japan Auto. The southwest corner and the southeast corner, these are all zoned B2. The site with the red and the star is the one we're talking about, is zoned office transitional, currently designated commercial on the comprehensive plan. The remainder of the strip down Arlington Heights Road is primarily B1, but as you get a little bit further down in front of the former Dunton School, there's a little section that is zoned OT. On the right is the comprehensive plan. Again, this site is designated commercial, as are the other corners, with the exception of the northeast corner. Then there are a couple of office buildings on the south here that are designated for offices, but the rest of the strip is designated commercial. And again, down further south opposite the Dunton School is office again.
I just think that, the commercial, I think in our last review of this property, we were trying to be sensitive to the fact that there's single-family homes that are adjacent to here. So the type of commercial would be
Correct.
It has to be something compatible.
Right.
For residential, and I think you've been through that, so.
Yeah, and I mean, the person's property that's probably affected the most would be my father's, who's directly to the west. So we personally wouldn't want to put something in there that would destroy his property value and/or not work for the neighborhood. And anything, I mean, like a convenient, they wouldn't be interested in this property because of the access in and out. The ingress egress of this is just, it's just not doable.
This does come to the Village Board of Trustees with a Plan Commission recommendation to remain commercial.
Yes.
So they're agreeing with you.
Yes.
So we're in the right direction. Trustees, Trustee Glasgow, then Trustee
I have no,
Scaletta.
okay, go ahead.
Reviewing, I mean, I remember clearly the discussion we had when Japan Auto went through and listening to the neighbors. I understand their concerns. I also understand that your father would be one of the people who were affected. Reading through the minutes, Commissioner Jensen made a comment that I thought was appropriate, and that was that she really didn't see whether it mattered whether the comprehensive plan calls this commercial zone or OT zone, because the market has spoken based upon the fact that you had put that, I believe the state, Mr. Dixon, had put the median in.
Yes, at the time that Arlington Heights Road was upgraded in conjunction with the full interchange at I-90 and Arlington Heights Road, 2 left turn lanes were created at the intersection of Central and Arlington Heights Road. The state has jurisdiction there, and they installed a barrier median, largely, we believe, because of the 2 left turn lanes.
And I had some pretty extensive conversations with Mr. Dixon about this morning regarding this matter, but I mean, at least you've got inquiries, as Commissioner Jensen had said. I think that's a step in the right direction,
right,
at the very least.
And a lot of the, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but a lot of the inquiries have all been B1 zoning.
And I understand that. I mean, and the fact that you haven't had anything since 2002. I remember when Rose Depot was there.
Yes.
But I'd move to approve the Plan Commission's recommendation to the board. I'd like to hear what everybody else says, of course, but I would move. I did say I wanted to hear what you had to say, sir.
This is just getting a motion
This
on
is
the
just-
floor, so we can still continue to discuss it. We're not voting on it.
Yeah, I apologize, Madam Mayor. I didn't mean to
Motion by
interrupt
Trustee
you.
Glasgow, is there a second?
Yes.
Second.
Second by Trustee Breyer. Trustee Scaletta.
I was just going to ask that I hear from the other speaker, and then I have other questions.
We do have someone that wishes to address the board.
Questions for me?
Richard Kozak? If you can clearly give your name and address.
I did that already.
No, for the recording.
Oh, I see, okay. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to address the board on this. This is only going to take me probably 2 to 3 minutes, and I've written this out, so I don't want to, everybody's getting tired and we all want to go home, but let me, I think I have some important things here. Let me read what I have. My name is Richard Kozak. My wife and I are 50-year residents of Arlington Heights, residing at 931 South Evergreen. We are one of 4 single-family homes along the west and north perimeters with a 2-flat on the east, all abutting 110 East Central. 110 East Central is a deep lot, so activity within it also affects other single-family backyards extending north along Evergreen and Arlington Heights Road. The current zoning of OT is an appropriate zoning for 110 East Central. The Plan Commission's decision on January 23rd to leave the comprehensive plan use as commercial totally conflicts with over 30 years of consistent OT zoning, which the village has continuously supported as a protection to residential neighbors. Most importantly, I have issue with the village's manner in 1982 to 1984 of making and recording comprehensive plan usage changes on 110 East Central. According to Bill Enright's memorandum to the Plan Commission of January 17th, which was issued for the January 23rd hearing, the comprehensive plan was changed in 1984 from offices to commercial. His memorandum further stated, records are unclear why the change was made. This lack of records is confusing and troubling, considering extensive litigation regarding 110 Central during 1982 to 1983 that fully supported office usage. The 1982 lawsuit between the village and property owner ultimately was settled by a final court judgment in September 1983, which allowed a produce store but upheld office transitional zoning. I'd like to make a comment here that the property owner of 110 did agree to that OT zoning as part. That was a negotiated settlement on that. It wasn't a court, it was a negotiated settlement. So the fact that, and this was before this produce building was put up, so that the argument that the produce building, his building does not lend itself to office zoning, office type operations, that's his problem. I mean, it's his building, he could have changed it. He agreed to the office zoning during that court settlement. That was before the thing was built. The other factor was built, okay, and then it says the village made an OT zoning provision an important stipulation for settlement of that lawsuit to protect nearby residences. It seems inconceivable that in 1984, the comprehensive plan would have been amended to commercial from offices. That's less than a year after the court settlement, which should have been known in all types of records, which stressed office zoning as most appropriate. There must have been an error somewhere in the comprehensive plan review and approval process. And this seems like a good time to correct that whole situation here. And what I'm asking is that I feel, and I'm appealing to the board, to revert this zoning of this comprehensive plan back to its original appropriate, designation as offices only. The only other comment I have to make is that, as was said before, this matter was brought up in the Board of Trustees meeting with Japan Auto back in March 19, 2012. And there were a couple of interesting points that were made there. Trustee Farwell asked in that meeting why the comprehensive plan showed the site as commercial. And this, Mr. Perkins said, didn't know why, but this was part of, this issue would be looked into. Well, there hasn't been any answer to that. The answer to that is that the records are unclear why the change was made. This is an important factor here. The other comment in there, Mayor Mulder, and maybe I can use your words in here, reading from that statement, it says, Mayor Mulder said that OT zoning is intended to be a buffer, and she could not recall ever rezoning an OT zone when there are residents next door. We are sitting with 4 residences, and as I said previously here, this is definitely an office transitional situation. And if we're going to be an exception to this, apparently we're going to be the only one, because, and that's, all I have to say. I struggle with this thing, we've lived here for 50 years, and I've struggled with this with a lot of administrations. I think part of the problem is that and I'm not criticizing the village. The village has supported this thing, for us. But this is such a small piece of land that I had an experience where I went down and talked to one of your building inspectors on this regarding something at one time. And this is with these trucks that are sitting in the back of my yard there. And he said, well, it's a commercial office. It's a commercial building. Well, he looked at his little commercial plan back, and this was when you're in your temporary housing over here, looked at there, he says, I said, no, it isn't, it's office transitional. Well, he got there and he got this close to it, and he said, oh, you're right, it is. I suspect that maybe this is what happened back in 1984 when this thing was changed, that, and I don't even know if there was a formal meeting on this by authorized.
All changes have to be at a formal meeting. I don't think there's any one of us that were on this, well, I know for sure. None of us
but I
were here
appreciate your listening, and I'm requesting you a vote tonight for, reverting this back to a
OT. Is it okay?
Thanks.
Mr. Dixon, you wanted to make some comments?
No, I was just reminding you of the time.
Oh, I saw 4 fingers.
Well, there was a stop sign over there, too.
Oh, okay. Well, that was not a citizen to be heard. I thought this was an impacted neighbor.
You run the meeting, Mayor.
Okay.
We just advise you.
Trustee Scaletta.
So the property is from 108 to 112, but we're only talking about 110?
I think there may be other addresses there. The building runs kind of linear north-south.
Well, because I'm looking at the building, and they had mentioned 2,600 square feet, and not an expert, but it doesn't look like 2,600 square feet.
The building is,
John?
110 is 2,600 square feet.
108, 1,300 square feet. And then the dock in the
And
back.
then there's the docks in the back, 112
112
is
is the
considered
dock.
the docks in the back.
yeah, the addresses for the building are 108 to 112. I don't have the exact square footage of the total
That's
building.
fine, but we're only talking about 110?
No, we're talking about the entire building. Address is 108 to 112.
Seems a little confusing looking at all this material, because we talk about 108 to 112, and then there's other times where we're just talking about 110. Okay. So, I'm having a hard time following. I mean, I reviewed all the material that was provided, and I appreciate the zoning history. If we had more time, would we be able to determine more information?
No, Bill Enright has gone through the records from 1984. There was a hearing that changed the comprehensive plan. Unfortunately, back in that day, there was not a detailed analysis of each site and why there was a change. So we don't know exactly why that change occurred. We can only assume that it occurred because the property was really developed commercial. So somebody went ahead and changed the plan to reflect what the use was, not, what perhaps everybody wanted the long-term use to be. Or maybe they would still wanted the long-term use to be that. We don't know. We're just guessing. The record is not clear. In our records now, we have a detailed report, and there's an analysis, and the meeting minutes, of the Plan Commission are verbatim minutes. So when we go back, now in recent times, we know exactly what happened, but back then, we don't have that luxury.
So we don't have minutes from a village board meeting in 1982?
There are minutes, but they're not specific on, why something was changed.
It was just kind of like somebody motioned.
Right. Quite often, there were changes. There were multiple changes to the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And this was one of many.
Which I've seen us do as well. I'm struggling with it. I'm struggling changing anything. Because I don't want to make another change just to make another change. And the property in front of it is zoned commercial as well?
The property...
Let me just say this. I was not here for Japan Auto Sales, so I was not privy to that conversation, so apologize to everybody that I was not here for that meeting, although I followed it from afar. So I'll just say that on record.
The Japan Auto Sales and the Shell station that was there before, the property's been, that corner piece has been zoned B2 for a long time. Japan Auto Sales needed an additional approval from the village for the actual auto sales in a B2 district, so they needed a land use variation. So that was the action last year, and when that happened, Mr. Kozak, brought up the issue of the property to the west. We were asked to look at the comprehensive plan, and that's fast forward, and we're here this evening. I do think there are some differences on this site from, other OT districts, other OT buildings that are typically built as an office building with, your typical office configuration, having frontage on the street. This only has a little frontage on the street. It's really built as a retail building. And then in the early 90s, the state came along and put the barrier median in, which has restricted it. So it's a very difficult site to lease out for just the limited amount of office uses that are allowed under the OT district. Even if the plan is left as it is today, the property owner would still have to petition the village to rezone from OT to most likely B1. I don't think we would support a B2. B1 is our most restrictive commercial zoning district. And as you can see on this exhibit on the left side, we have a lot of B1 that backs up to residential. The residential on Pine back up to those commercial properties. If they were to petition at some future date to rezone the B1, we would look and see, is there any way to get additional transitional screening? What other improvements could be made to the property in return for granting that zoning?
Sure, and actually that was one of the questions I was going to ask is, what is the rear of this building? What does it look like from the owner of the property's backyard?
one-story brick wall. The
I have to be in the microphone, please.
It's, the residents all see brick. The only ones that see the docks would be the apartment building, which is directly north of the Arlington and the Japan Auto Services. So all the residents see is, and my father had built it that way after the court and pushed the property so that there wasn't parking lot all the way around to interfere with the houses built directly to the west of the building. So the building was built west, north, for the sake of the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. I've always been very sensitive to the zoning issues, especially when they impact a neighborhood. And I'm not going to go through all the issues that have come before this board over time, but trying to figure out exactly. I mean, I see the history, but I don't understand the reasoning why it changed the way that it did. And I'm just not comfortable making another change until I can get a better understanding of why we would change it when it is not negatively impacting the neighborhood. And so I'm very concerned about just making a change based on another meeting that I was not in attendance at, as I was out of town at the time. I have no other questions.
Trustee Breyer, were you on the Plan Commission in the 80s?
In the 80s, yes. I was out since about 1971. And I was going to ask Jack, was Dick Durava on the Plan Commission when this thing was done?
I believe so.
And Dick Durava, when he saw B1 requests, would always use this language about in the nature of a plan unit development, and this thing would have been beat to death at that time, and sliced and diced, to use that term from somewhere else earlier today, in every which way. And I guess the first question, after making that comment, because Dick was very thorough, and if this thing was approved B1 in 1966, those folks asked a lot of questions. Are the freezers still operable? How much of the space in the basement do they take?
Up to the microphone to answer the questions, because otherwise our tape is not going to pick it up.
Yeah, about 40%.
The docks, are they elevated, or does the ground go down?
Yes, the ground goes down.
The first, in 1966, were the homes there?
I believe, Dad, how old is our house? Yeah, our home was there, so the other homes must have been there. We purchased in '77, and when we purchased that property, it was zoned B1. Otherwise, we would not have purchased it. My father purchased it with a specific intent for his produce business. So when we found the property and the house right next door, it was a win-win, because my dad used to work from 4 in the morning till 10 at night, so he would be right there.
I'm well aware of the vicissitudes of the produce business. I was on the market at one time, so I know well about the produce business.
It's an early job.
Correct.
We have no transcripts of the board meeting in 66?
Oh, that I don't know about. I'd have to talk to Bill Enright, what he looked at as far as in 66. What I was referring to earlier was in 84. From the transcript, we're not able to determine why that change was made.
Why would somebody change something to OT when there clearly is a building on the site that no more looks like OT than a cat looks like a horse? Why would we do that?
Can I say something? That's incorrect.
Okay, excuse me, sir, we can't, only one person and whoever's at the mic. Mr. Dixon, should we have another opinion of what happened in the 80s?
Well, Trustee Breyer's asked a question, and I understand Mr. Perkins to say we don't know.
But the building was built in 66, and there must have been extensive...
I'm sorry, the building was built in 83.
All right.
83.
I'm sorry.
There was a lawsuit, Norman.
Yeah.
This was a settlement.
The building was zoned from R3 to B1 in 1966.
There was a building permit that was issued.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to remember, that was only, what, 25 or 30 years ago. I've had a few lawsuits since then. But it seems to me that a permit was issued for this building, was determined then that the zoning did not permit it.
No, I can explain. In 1966, the property was rezoned from R3 to B1, and as part of that ordinance, there was a requirement that the site plan must be approved by the village board as part of a planned development. In 1981, a permit was issued, and it did not come to the village board for approval.
Right, well then the question...
So then, like 5 days later, the permit was revoked. The property owner sued the village. Then there was the settlement in '83, but in the meantime, in 1982, the village rezoned the property from B1 to OT.
All right, well, let me correct what I said, and that is back in when they used to do B1 in those days, when I first was on the Plan Commission, and granted, this was almost 50 years ago, and both of us had a lot more hair then, and darker color hair. They generally didn't make something B1 without somebody presenting something of what they intended to do. Isn't my memory correct, Jack?
That's correct.
And so I was inaccurate in the way I phrased this, but I am accurate in saying that nobody got B1 zoning in those days without some conceptual plan of what was going to be on the property.
And there was a PUD, or a requirement for a plan development for that site. The permit was issued without that planning being approved by the village. The permit was issued administratively. There was a slip up. They issued a building permit when they couldn't do it without coming to the village board first. And that's what I believe prompted the lawsuit. This was settled with the understanding, and now I'm trying to remember exact details. I have no idea where the file is, but it was clear that the zoning was established for OT as a result of that lawsuit. Now, we're talking about the plan. We're not talking about zoning here. Always there's a distinction. So the zoning is always separate and apart from the plan. But the settlement involved rezoning to the OT. I think the gentleman who was first here, that's right, isn't it?
Okay, excuse me, I'm sorry. Sir, would you please come up to the microphone and again give your name so that we know and we can hear clearly what you're...
Yeah, Richard Kozak. That's true. What had happened with it is the permit had been issued, and it was the neighborhood that stopped the construction on that thing.
Right.
We went down there, and then then it went to the village board for approval of what he wanted to do. And the village board voted in favor of the homeowners and rejected, and that prompted the lawsuit.
Right.
And I recall talking to you, Mr. Siegel, back in those days there, that you were very insistent and you worked hard on this thing to get this OT zoning as part of that settlement. It was settled out of court, and Mr. Mann has agreed to that OT zoning. So the fact that his building doesn't meet office requirements is an after-the-fact thing. He could have changed the design on it because the building was not there, and he agreed to the OT zoning. So I think it's a pretty clear case.
I think we did understand, however, we issued a building permit for that building which is there as part of that settlement.
It's not settled out of court.
The
judge made the decision of what was going to happen.
No.
Oh, no, that was not true. You negotiated that decision.
Absolutely.
And that's the whole point on this thing. There was no building there. So the argument that he can't use this for offices because the building doesn't suit it doesn't seem to apply at all because the building was not there. True, it would have been an expensive thing for him to redesign it, but he agreed to the OT zoning before this building was put up there. And that's the fact of the matter.
I have 3 other questions if I could ask, and then I will restrain myself. Are there currently fixtures in the store?
We need the building owner to respond.
No.
So it's empty?
I mean, there's some stuff in there that has left over from some of the tenants.
All right,
But, yeah.
The electric and the electric capacity in the store, would you define it as relatively high load capable for refrigeration equipment?
Oh, yes. Yes, sir. 600 amp? 600 amp. So is that high?
I'll let somebody with an engineering background answer
Well,
that.
they'd have to because it ran refrigeration, so, yeah, it ran refrigeration upstairs and downstairs, so
This is like you say, it looks like a duck, it must be a duck. But anyway, Charles, what is the vacancy rate for offices in this village?
25%.
We took a look using CoStar. South of Central is about 24% right now for office.
And the vacancy rate for commercial?
Depends where you look. Downtown, it's 8.1%, so that's, even though we've got some vacancies, it's still, that's a pretty good rate. I think community-wide, it's probably in the 10 or 11%.
Did the state give us any chance to comment when they put that non-mountable median on Central?
That state plan had been in the works for decades, so I can't speak to prior to when I was with the village, and it happened right after in the early 90s, so, I don't recall, opportunity for comment. I'm sure they did have opportunity for comment, but at the same time, looking at the geometrics of the configuration there with the dual left turn, eastbound Central going northbound Arlington Heights Road, they would not allow an access point, because it conflicts with the turn tapers for those eastbound, northbound movements off Central.
Is this property currently getting a reduced property tax assessment because of its largely unutilized nature?
yes.
So the
Yeah.
village really derives no revenue other than maybe a nominal amount.
If I may, the property tax bill for 2011 was a little over 24,000. My dad collects about 18,000 in rent. So basically, with the utilities and the upkeep of the property, he's negative about 10,000 to 15,000 a year. When both properties were rented back in 1998 to 1999, his tax bill back then was 33,000. Then that was back in the 80s.
Well, I remember the produce store being there. I remember the florist. And it's too bad the state strangled the businesses that were there. But I think we certainly don't want to see a vacant property. It doesn't do anybody any good. And no matter what this history says, and no matter what has happened back and forth, this thing was never built as an office. It's not outfitted as an office. And it's been sitting there all this time as a B1 kind of facility. And that's the appearance it's been as long as I can remember. I have no other comments.
I have a comment for that.
Sir, you have to come to the mic.
The village made a commitment to the homeowners on this that goes all the way back many, many years. I've lived there for 50 years, and that commitment that promise is not being kept here. We're talking about a building, whether this thing is, there was no building there. What about the commitment from the village to the homeowners on this thing to protect us? There was no one can explain why this comprehensive plan was changed from offices, which was appropriate all the way up until '82, and within 8 months after this lawsuit was in, it goes into a commercial thing. There should have been records galore about that lawsuit with the village on that comprehensive plan meeting if that was being handled properly. And there's no way that I can see that with that kind of court action that the comprehensive plan could have, any way possible, been changed to commercial. There's no reason at all for that, other than it may have been a mistake. Somebody looked at a little sliver of land on a part, and I'm not saying there was anything, legally wrong with this. I think it could have been a very honest mistake due to the procedures back in those, or lack of procedures, just like that inspector that I talked to. He didn't even know within the last 2 years if this little part, he thought that was a commercial thing. And I've talked to other people as inspectors over the years, they didn't know it either. It's a little piece of land. It's important to us as neighbors. And I think the village owes us a commitment on this to run this back on a comprehensive. It's zoned for OT right now. Why not make this appropriate on the comprehensive plan to give us some assurance in the future that this is an office thing? You can't turn this into a commercial operation. As I said, Mayor Mulder said in this May 19th meeting, she's never heard of a case where anybody has reverted an OT zoning. She's been here for 20 years. That must show something. That's all I have to say.
Trustee Farwell.
A couple questions now. Oh, there. I've been driving by this building, twice a day now for the last 7 or 8 years, and on and off since 1992. And I'm in a real estate related industry, and I've often looked at the property saying, don't get it. Now in looking at, and when we were looking at Japan Auto, it came up, and it came up really with respect to the use of, is that going to be overflow parking? Is there going to be more? And we were assured not, and the ordinance was written such. But then it was at that point that we began to say, wait, what is next door? Now we're getting a little bit, and that's why I asked that question back there. Now that I get the history and I kind of understand a little bit sometimes how things like this work, this is total conjecture. But I have a feeling that we might have negotiated a settlement, but then after the building was built, a year or two goes down the line, they look at the comprehensive plan and they say, well, we now have this piece of commercial property and it's zoned OT, and they just changed it on the comprehensive plan. I think is probably what happened to make it in line with the line of the current use at the time. It's conjecture, but I have a feeling that's probably what happened, and that's probably why we don't see a whole lot of notes on it. With that in mind, how have you been marketing the property because it's been empty other than Barb Lake flowers,
yes,
and then dozen
Barb
roses
Lakes.
for 10
I couldn't remember the
baked
name. Thank you.
Yeah, Barb Lake.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had about 10 different real estates, and we've had realtors for a year, and I kid you not, under OT there has been 0 showings. My father currently made a sign himself and has put it up, and he had a sign by himself before. The people that have come to us, again, we got to keep this in perspective. I know we're going for commercial, but we're not going for commercial for a restaurant or no one's going to go in there because the access to it is so difficult. We're looking for, 2 martial arts studios has approached them. That would be great if we could say, yeah, it's Zone B1, let's work on a lease. Learning center, it would be minimal impact to the neighbors. All of these any business we're looking at is most likely Monday through Friday business hours and, little late into the evening, 8 o'clock-ish, whatever. Specialty furniture stores, or I believe it was an antique store, Dad? An antique store, a trophy shop. It's not high-impact retail, so we got to keep this in perspective with who is going to come to us to rent this property. We just want to open it up. We have been trying, why wouldn't we want it rented? We have been trying to rent it since 2002. We've tried reduced rent. We've tried, telling people, hey, we'll give you guys 3 months, and nothing. We have not been approached by one doctor, and now we don't stand a chance with all the medical buildings built by Northwest Hospital.
Yeah. All right. So you've hired realtors and you've tried to market this as OT.
Yes.
But the only interest you've received is
yes,
commercial.
Yeah, it B1, I mean, smaller retail, yeah.
Well, yeah, it would have
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
And then in looking at some of the other buffers that we've seen on that one other overlay, there is some, commercial next to residential. It's just that your particular one is kind of an odd bird where it is right now. Just out of curiosity, when they put in that median, because I remember when they put that in, and then I watched essentially your businesses dry up there. Did you get any sort of remuneration in the form of damages of loss of business and diminution of value from the state or
Nothing.
IDOT or?
I think it was Cook County.
Was it Cook County that did?
Was it state?
State.
This,
yeah,
this section is under the control of the state of Illinois.
Because that entire intersection.
Right. So I was just wondering
Yeah.
whether they got it.
And we weren't even informed of it either. My father just confirmed that either. We weren't even informed of it, nor were our businesses there. We couldn't even, and we had two really good tenants that, Canopy Salon, they used to be downtown Arlington Heights. They were wonderful tenants, and Barb Lakes, they were wonderful tenants too. Both of them did great businesses, and 6, 7, 8 months later, my dad decreased the rents numerous times, trying to help him out, and we just could not make a go of it.
I think regardless of what you put there, because of that median being there, it's going to be very destination-oriented.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we're sitting here arguing commercial. No, a 7-Eleven is not going to go in there. A restaurant will not go in there. But boy, it'd be great for us, when the Learning Center approached my father, for us to say, yeah, we're zoned. Let's talk lease. They don't want to go through a 6-month, 4-month, 3-month process to get it rezoned at that point.
Mr. Siegel?
I think it's important to understand that the way this is zoned, none of these uses are going to be permitted. If somebody comes in with any one of the proposed uses, they're going to have to go through a rezoning process, and the burden will be on them to change the zoning. What we're talking about is a designation on a comprehensive plan, which is not zoning. Property is zoned O2. Any use which is other than that which is permitted in that district cannot get a permit. I hope, Charles, that you don't issue any permits for anything except O2 on that property.
So the zoning is what, again?
OT, office transitional.
So that is not being requested to change.
No. So, they talk
Simply the
about,
comprehensive plan.
we can't consider any uses except OT until a specific proposal seeking an amendment. Comprehensive plan is all very interesting. It's not binding on anybody.
Well, I'm looking at whoever decided the history of this property, going back to 66. It was, in 1966, it was R3. But obviously, looking at the nature of Arlington Heights Road and Central, it was going to be very difficult to put a home there with ingress and egress with the type of traffic, especially with the Kirchhoff spinoff. And so that's probably why it initially went to B1, according to this history. And then in 1977, it became designated as offices and services, according to this.
Well, in 77, we purchased it, and our lawyers came here, and they gave my dad, they said it was Zone B1.
Mayor, in 77, that was a change of the comprehensive plan. It did not change the zoning. The zoning was still B1 at that time.
Yeah. Okay. And we are correct there. I remember, because I was on this board, when we did this somewhere in the last 20 years, and we struggled just as we are struggling this evening. It's ingress and egress for any kind of residential use. Multiple family wouldn't work there, like a townhome or a couple. It's not big enough, probably.
But you can't really convert that building into a townhouse.
No, it would have to totally be redone.
Yeah, it'd have to be demolished.
And it's ingress and egress is the challenge for what type of business, and your daycare center use or something like that would probably be good, but what zoning would that require?
For what use?
Daycare.
Daycare?
I believe it was B1.
gentleman is quite correct when he said that we insisted on OT zoning at the request and the insistence of the neighbors. Otherwise, we would not have settled the case. We understood what was going to be proposed there was at least objectionable use. That was what everybody was willing to accept at that time, with the understanding that future development would have to be OT.
And to answer your question, a daycare would be a special use in the B1 and a special use in the OT. It was just added, I believe, last year in the OT district as well.
So daycare would qualify then?
As a special use in the under the current zoning.
But we couldn't retrofit for the daycare center. It was the sprinkler systems, and they wanted a playground in the back, and we couldn't retrofit it because of the docks. It was, you're talking major cement work, a lot of, there was way too much to do, so.
There's going to be a lot to do on this property, no matter what it becomes.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it's.
Okay. Trustee Farwell, I'm sorry, I interjected. You have the floor.
I'm just kind of looking at this. So let's go back at the history. We had Barber Lake Flowers, and it was still under OT. Did they have to, I'm trying to find where they would fall under this to see whether they had to come for special use.
B1.
They should have.
Yeah.
The flowers would be a B1 use.
Right. Not an OT, but this thing was OT. So Barber Lake Flowers went in there. According to this, I don't see a little X in the box where they should have, where we were able to provide them a business license without having them come in for special use. Is that?
Or if they received a land use variation, which I don't know whether they did. We didn't check the past uses that may have been in there.
Okay, because I mean, at the time when they had the produce, that was the negotiation. But then then 2 years later, or whatever number of years later, they close. Then we have canopy. And then
it shouldn't have issued any permits except for OT after that, except for the use which was agreed upon.
Right. And in reviewing what I'm looking at here,
right,
all these uses that we've had through the years, I don't see where it was falling under OT unless, this was different back then, which could have been a possibility.
Yeah, the beauty salon and the floral shop, they came in front of the board, and it was allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah,
so they did come
changed,
in.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know the.
Probably got land use variation.
Must have been a land use variation.
In 1988.
It wasn't in a pack. Okay.
Yeah. We had a realtor that was working on it, and then he kind of took care of all the procedures for us and came in front of the board and got it approval, and that, and that was commercial, and that wasn't,
they have?
That worked out very well. I mean, it was, and now the tenant that we have closest to the property owners, to the homeowners, he just comes in the back door, goes out the back door. He does a computer.
Computer guy.
Yeah. So we're talking about the space. Well, I mean, of course, we're talking about the entire property, but the space that we would be renting would be the property to the east, which faces Japan Auto Services. Thank you.
Right. All right. And then Mr. Kozak? Mr. Kozak, I just had some questions.
Oh, yes.
When it was Barber Lake Flowers and when it was the beauty salon, so when they were commercial uses, B1 uses, that they got land variation or special use variations for, what was the neighborhood like back then?
We had problems with certainly the canopy, because that was the reason they put in no parking signs on that. The entire staff was parking down Evergreen Avenue there at the cul-de-sac because there wasn't enough parking space in there. And that was the reason no parking signs were put up. And we had to petition the village for that. It's true that there were other uses on that property there, and I frankly didn't object to some of those. But my point on this is, Mr. Siegel says a comprehensive plan doesn't, I won't say it doesn't mean anything, but the main thing is the zoning on this property. But if that's the case, why are we arguing? Why not make this comprehensive plan back to, I think my point, that it really should never have been changed in 1984 on the comprehensive plan to make that commercial use from, it was offices. Everything was fine there. Somebody made a big mistake, and I think Mr. Farwell is probably right. Somebody looked at a thing there and says, change it. But that puts us at a big disadvantage, because why don't we just change it back to, on the comprehensive plan, to the offices only, and let it sit that way? And then if somebody wants to come for a special use, they can still do that, can't they? Petition?
Any use except that which is permitted in the OT will require some action by this board. If it's a characterization of a special use, that requires a hearing, plan commission, recommendation to the board. If it's rezoning to B1 or whatever use, that also requires hearing before the plan commission, coming back to the board.
But what I'm saying is that 30 years have gone by with this property where it was zoned as OT. And this comprehensive plan is something up in sky blue here that changes all the time. And what happened 30 years ago with the comprehensive plan? It was offices only and everything went fine on this thing here. I just don't see what we're getting hung up on here. The reason I would like the comprehensive plan change is I think the village did make a commitment on this to protect the homeowners. I think the OT zoning was presented, and even Mr. Sidor.
Without being too technical, that isn't what's before the village board tonight.
Right.
Could you please state what's before us?
Well, what's before it isn't...
No, I'm asking Mr.
The
Sidor.
only thing that's before the village board is a report from the plan commission recommending that there be no change in the comprehensive plan.
To the comprehensive plan.
To the comprehensive plan. That's what I had said.
And it leaves it at OT.
Yes.
No.
Commercial.
Yeah,
Arlene, you've been there for 20 years.
I
You ought to
know.
know the difference between
Well,
the
I keep
zoning
looking at
ordinance
1984
and the plan.
offices and services, and I keep thinking that doesn't fit into commercial or...
Well, in 1984, they should not have changed that comprehensive plan from
I wasn't here
offices to
then.
commercial, because it was acceptable the way it was, and that somebody made a mistake. So let's get it back to where it was.
The only problem is it's been this way for as long as it has. The people that own the property have tried to market it as office, as OT, and they're not getting any leads. Their property was already essentially taken when they put in the median, which, the market proved that to us. That's why I was asking you, what was it like when Barb Lake was there, and what was it like when Canopy was there?
Well, I just told you the way it was with Canopy.
Let me try to finish. And I understand that there was a parking issue, and the parking issue was relieved. I also know that our ordinances and are very strict now when it comes to parking, off-site parking. I understand the concerns of the neighborhood. I don't think by having a no change, it's putting a negative impact on the neighborhood, because if there's anything outside of OT that, let's say somebody wants to come in and it's a B1 use, they're still going to have to come to us. You're still going to have to be here.
Okay, Mr. Farwell.
Please. Yeah. And that's the way it has been, even though back in '83 when they made the change from OT to C, that happened, but it has never been used since before 1977 when I was in 7th grade. It was never used as office transitional. So that's what it's kind of like we won the battle and lost the war, but at the same time, the building was allowed to be built, and it's built as a commercial spot. Okay. And although it's still zoned as OT, so it's going to have to be marketed as OT. So anybody that comes in for a B1 use, they're still going to have to come in for that special use variation. And there are strict criteria that have to be followed in a special use variation. It doesn't, and one of those 4 factors is it doesn't upset or change the character of the neighborhood or put an onus on the neighborhood. And they're going to have to prove that to us. And I know all 9 members here really listen at each of those times. So that's why I was interested in finding out what it was like as commercial.
Mr. Farwell, could I just say one thing here?
And then we're going to get back to the petitioner.
I brought up that in the March 19th meeting, you're the one that brought up The fact is, why is the comprehensive plan shown commercial? Well, it's inconsistent with the OT zoning. You brought that up in the March 19th meeting.
And that was a question that's now
and
been
that's
answered.
what brought it up. If you wouldn't have brought it, and I brought it up, why not make it consistent?
Okay.
And this whole argument here is about
We're
changing.
not going to argue right now, so thank you, Mr. Kozak.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Dixon.
Mayor, at the risk of oversimplifying, and this is a complex case from the standpoint of history, but the issue before the board tonight is really very simple. And you have a unanimous recommendation from the Plan Commission to make no change. You have the property owner who wants no change, and you have a motion and a second to make no change. The history makes this more complicated than it needs to be, and I'll just leave it at that.
It's just one of those awkward things that we had the same thing, 10 years ago when we dealt with something regarding this, and maybe that's when it became commercial. But it was difficult, as it is tonight. Trustee Farwell, have you concluded with your comments?
I'm done.
Okay. Anyone else want to chime in? Trustee Rosenberg.
Maybe this is for the petitioner. How many parking spaces exist on the whole area right now?
About 30.
Okay, thank you.
And if I might just clarify one thing, I think the village is a petitioner in this case.
Yes.
These folks are here just protecting their interests. We're the petitioner. As a result of...
Trustee Hayes just pointed that out to me. He said, remember, it's the village that's the petitioner. These are property owners. Okay, go ahead, Trustee Rosenberg. Did you get an answer?
Yeah, thank you. It's about 30 spaces.
30 spaces. Trustee Glasgow.
Mayor, I made the motion for a lot of the same reasons that my colleagues have talked about. I just don't see any reason to change this. It hasn't negatively impacted the community in any way. Anything that is to be done has to come before us for the most part, with the, very, very few exceptions. You've tried to market this. You need to end up getting this rented. It ends up helping put businesses back in Arlington Heights. It ends up increasing our tax rolls. So the comprehensive plan is very different than the zoning, and we still have ultimate control over what may or may not go in there. And I think the concerned residents need to know that. But with that, does anybody have anything else to say? Otherwise, I'm going to call the question.
You have to ask permission from now.
Need a motion.
We were going to call it. We have a motion and a second.
I humbly beseech thee, could I please call the question?
There's a request. Does anyone object to that? Has everyone made their comments?
Procedurally, you have to get a second and vote on
Is there a
the question.
second?
We have a second.
We have a second.
Okay.
So it's been moved and seconded for the motion to concur with the Plan Commission's recommendation. Roll call.
Trustee Glasgow.
Yes.
Trustee Breyer.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
Trustee Sidor.
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood.
Yes.
Trustee Farwell.
Yes.
Trustee Hayes.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
President Mulder.
Yes. And we wish you luck trying to get it, and you've worked at being a good neighbor. We hope you continue to be a good neighbor. Yeah. It's a difficult piece, so. Very difficult piece. Good luck. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for all your time.
And we're not done yet.
I think we get to go to page 7, legal. We have a resolution approving renewal of an industrial real estate tax incentive for certain real estate in the village. Mr. Dixon?
Thank you. This is for Nokia Siemens at 1455-75 West Shore Drive. Total employment at this establishment is approximately 1,000 full-time employees. Nokia Siemens is planning a multi-million-dollar investment at their Arlington Heights location. They've indicated that Class 6B is necessary to mitigate the effect of the higher Cook County property taxes as compared to Lake County. Staff would recommend approval of the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Glasgow, seconded by Trustee Scaletta. Any other comments?
I have one. This is how we help. With all the talk we have about making business competitive in Arlington Heights, this is how we help our businesses be competitive and stay in this village where otherwise the taxes might drive them to the collar counties.
Okay. Is the petitioner present?
No.
They gave up on us. They trust us. Any other comments, anyone in the audience? We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. I would just make a comment that Nokia Siemens is a new version. It was formerly the Motorola, and those 1,000 jobs are very important. I think the comments made by Trustee Breyer are very appropriate. And I need to publicly commend our planning department, Mr. Perkins, and his staff, who, John Melanophy, who constantly stay in communication with some of our major businesses and employers. And we really appreciate that effort, and it's important that we work with our business community and for them. So thank you. Charles, pass that on to John, please, as well. Petitions and communications. Trustee Blackwood.
Mayor, many of our residents are very environmentally concerned individuals, and my colleagues and I were emailed by many of them indicating that this Saturday, March 23rd at 8:30, the World Wildlife Fund is sponsoring their annual Earth Hour. And from 8:30 to 9:30, many of us are considering and actually executing any extra non-necessity type lights to be dimmed or to completely turned off for an hour to recognize some of the environmental challenges that we all face today. So if you are so inclined, and for those of you who are watching on television tonight who want to participate, it's this Saturday evening from 8:30 to 9:30.
It'll be quiet and dark. No unnecessary light. But I believe all of our street lights will continue to work.
Yes.
Okay. Make sure we keep our roadways safe. Any other announcements, petitions, communications for this evening? A motion, or no, I have to go to our village manager, has a request.
Thank you, Mayor. We're requesting a closed session tonight per 5 ILCS 102/2C21, discussion of minutes lawfully closed, and 5 ILCS 120/2C11 litigation. Sorry to sound so officious, but under the law, we have to read those things.
So moved.
Second.
Second. On your first request, you said 102, it's 120, but you got it right on the second one.
Thank you.
You reversed those numbers, so just make sure the record shows exactly what's in our agenda. Motion and a second for closed session calls for roll call.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. That completes this. There is no, I believe we will not be returning after closed session, so that will conclude our meeting this evening. Thank you all for joining us.